think we still have a couple minutes.
Do you have time?
So nice.
Can you be the official timekeeper?
Yes.
People in adult education know how to hang right here.
This is a very serious task. It's true. I was already thinking of it earlier when we were practicing. I was like, I'm gonna have to keep it on time.
Oh,
Yep.
yes. Thank you. So,
Alright, should we start?
yeah, sure.
Alright.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the very last session of the conference. Thank you so much for coming.
Sticking it out.
Yeah. My name is Jen Brown.
I'm Hanna Bard.
I use she, her pronouns.
I also use she, her pronouns.
And welcome to our session.
Where are you from, Jen?
I work at Lewiston Adult Education.
Nice.
Where are you from, Hannah?
I'm from Mid-Maine Adult Education in Waterville.
So we met at COVID, and part of the first thing that we're going to talk about is how this kind of came about. So this is a QR code to the handout. If you did not get a copy, that will bring it up in your drive. The handout is also linked to the presentation. So if you want to check it out, that's absolutely cool. Do not recommend you printing this. All of the information is on the handout.
You want to go first?
Sure. No, you do, because I need to find my phone again.
Okay. So this all kind of started, as Jen mentioned, we met at COABE in April, which if you have not been to COABE, it is a fantastic experience. If you had even an ounce of enjoyment at this conference, I would strongly encourage you to come to COABE because it was just incredible to be amongst that many adult educators. And I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting Jen. We were on the flight together. Like we spent pretty much from the moment at like 5 in the morning at Portland Airport until we left at midnight from Portland Airport 5 days later. We spent together, and it was a really wonderful experience. And while we were going through different sessions together, we would share about the last session we were at and different things. And we talked about nice and kind, and that came up in our conversation. And the way that we kind of talked about that was, I have this like anecdote or statement that I heard years ago, and my sister lives on the West Coast. She's obviously grew up here in the East Coast, and then for the last 10 years she's lived on the West Coast. And I said, Sarah, do you find that this statement is true? And it was, West Coast people are nice but not kind, and East Coast people are kind but not nice. And so for people that have lived on both coasts, my experience has been that they very much agree with that statement. And so we got into a long conversation about what nice and kind was and the difference between them. And then that also spiraled into how does that show up in our workplace? Because Jen and I both realize we're big helpers, as I think many of you in this room are big helpers. And oftentimes we will put ourselves aside to make sure that we help other people. And while that can be really nice for them, or whatever, it's not necessarily kind to yourself. And so we started talking about those things, and then it spiraled into having a session at MAEA on the difference between nice and kind.
So the session was not intentionally directed about being nice and kind. The icebreaker that the person used was share your why. So that's what I'm going to do for you. Grab your phone. You have 15 seconds to find a photo about your why.
Why what?
No other explanation.
I have a why I can't do that, which is because
That's
I'm
fine.
recording this session.
Get one in your head real quick.
Okay.
Can I use my computer because I don't have a phone?
Just think about it. If you don't have a phone, just think about it real quick.
What would
Can I use my phone?
your why?
All right, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I would like us all, if you have a phone, to just kind of wave it around the room real quick. And for those that don't, a super quick explanation of what your picture might have been. So I see some people, I see some pets, I see more people, I see probably something that's really funny. All right, what would yours been?
A picture of my kids on my property looking at the ocean.
Okay, what would yours have been?
A place I go walking, a meadow.
Okay, so very interesting because the experience that I received was vastly different in the COABE. My picture is a picture of sea anemone, orange sea anemones from the aquarium that I had taken with a really cool blue background. Everyone at the conference showed pictures of kids, spouses, and students, and that was it. and we were supposed to just hold it and not say anything for like 10 seconds. I got looks of disgust because it did not have a child, a spouse, or a student. And it was really interesting. So I ran into Hannah. Hi. I ran into Hanna immediately after that, and I couldn't get over the fact that people had just massive looks of disgust because I did not fall into child, spouse, or student category. So when I made the explanation of, this shows creativity. Why are they orange? What did they look like a million years ago? What are they gonna look like a million years from now? How do they move? How do they grow? How do they just it was just creativity and curiosity. Those are the things that I see when I show that picture. But that turned from disgust to, oh, well, I guess that's okay. Like, that's all right. That's good enough. But it was just a really odd experience. So Hanna pretty much went, we should do something about that. So we are. So, what is nice? Also, caveat, we are not experts in this field. You can have vastly different opinions than we are going to present here. This is just what we came up with together when we were thinking about situations where people were nice and situations where people might be kind. So, you do not have to agree. Go ahead. What is nice? What is kind?
Because they're used very synonymously, they're used interchangeably, but I
Are
think if
they?
we really dig down, is there differences between them and what can they be?
Did you have something to say, Bonnie?
I'm thinking of students, sorry, but I am.
And that's okay.
No,
But the whole point is that this is not judgment.
I said that tongue in cheek.
She did that because she doesn't like anemones. That's what it is.
I think it's really nice to compliment students. And I think it's very kind to be direct and if you compliment a student, to make it be genuine and helpful or a teachable moment.
Okay.
So I think being nice is often a way to avoid deep engagement, and being kind is a way to accept deep engagement.
Okay. Behind Luke. Yes. Sorry, Nancy.
I think being nice is saying a compliment to your student with a smile. You can be smiley and you can be friendly, but you're not very kind. Kind, to me, is action. And nice is demeanor.
Okay. Luke.
Think of nice as, like when you're in a conversation, maybe with someone that you don't know, and you're just like really polite about it, but you're not really asking questions. You just want to be done, or you don't want to be done in a rude way.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming to our conference. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.
And then, do I get kind too or no?
Yeah, go for it.
No, you only get that.
I think kind is the conversation you have with somebody that will hopefully improve their life at some point down the road. Maybe not right now.
Pretty much that.
This is some of the things that we came up with when we were discussing the differences between nice and kind. And we should say that although Jeannie is not here, her
Major contributor to this.
Yeah, she did assist us on getting a lot of this stuff built. She was another person that we came together at CoAve, and so it was a nice conversation that we were able to spark from these.
Can you speak to spoon debt? I don't know that.
Why, yes we can. We'll be just going in just one moment.
Just our problems. So, like, knowing.
I feel like that was a plant.
Right? I know. We did plant her, I promise.
Okay. So we broke this up into a couple different things. Well, 3 different kind of parts. Kindness towards yourself, kindness towards others, and then
Negotiating kindness.
negotiating kindness. So my kindness towards self anecdote was, I started adult life as a special education teacher And about 5 years in, I became burned out. Stuff didn't work, things were not going well, and I felt like a complete and utter failure. And as I was telling Sarah at lunch, my interview for my first adult education job involved me crying because I was so angry that I had not been able to help the students that I was working in special education.
I hear you, sister.
Right? So I got the job, which was cool. I do not recommend crying in an interview, although it might work for you on occasion.
Kindness was getting the, oh wait, no, niceness was getting the job.
No, it was definitely kind. She severely put me to work. But, so the article that's linked here, that's also linked in the handout, which you can get electronically, the burnout narrative comes down to, you blew it. You couldn't hack it. You didn't preserve yourself. It was all your fault. So with burnout, there's nothing left, no possibility for regeneration. If you are demoralized, however, you are not done. So when this happened to me, it was June 23rd, 2010. I thought I would never be in a classroom again.
Oh my God, me too. No, sorry, never mind. Sorry, I'm fine.
That's okay. So I walked out of that classroom. The first day of school, I said, okay, I'm gonna be out by, New Year's. Second day of school was a Friday. I'm gonna be out by Christmas. Third day of school, which was a Monday, I can't quit in August, so I'm quitting in September. It was not a good fit. Proverbial camel's back and all of that. So I walked out September 23rd, really thinking truly I would never be in a classroom again. So I didn't have the word demoralize until I started working on my master's degree thesis in 2018. And once I got that word, once I had the word demoralize, that is exactly what it felt. I was not done. So I need to have a little kindness towards myself. So this is very difficult to read. Spoons, as if someone asked for it. So spoon set came from people with critical illnesses, where they were trying to explain, it takes me so much longer to do the things that it takes you to do, and they needed an analogy. And I believe they were eating at lunch, and the friend was like, but what does it really feel like for you? And so this person, I think her name was Christine, grabbed a bunch of spoons from all over the tables and went, okay, here we go. So shower, you get up, dress, eat, get the kids ready. Maybe it takes you a half a spoon to do all of that. For me, it takes 2 spoons to get up. It takes 3 spoons to shower or have breakfast. So I have to choose because we only have a certain number of spoons every single day. This example was 12. You only have 12 spoons. So if it takes you 3 spoons to either shower or eat breakfast, which one do you choose? And you go throughout your whole day using your spoons. So by the end of the day, if you don't have any spoons left, you have no capacity to go out and have fun with your friends. You can't do the meal prepping for tomorrow to make your morning easier because you don't have anything left tonight. So, first activity. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think you guys should be a group. These 2 tables should be a group, and those 2 tables should be a group.
So when you say you guys, you mean these 3 tables?
Yeah, you, everybody on the side.
Everybody.
Just for a couple of minutes. If your group, and we don't want to do this individually because we don't want to call out anybody. So as a group, your group has 12 spoons. How are you going to spend it?
What does bed mean?
Wake up or go to sleep. It's interpretation. The picture was very unclear.
Get out of
this
bed.
This says get out of bed.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the energy that you would output to like do what non-chronically ill people would do in a normal day.
Level of importance.
I made
yeah.
this easier to read than that previous one. I didn't make this up, so I just used the same numbers that were on this.
Yes, the cost that it's going to take you in energy to do these tasks. And so when I remember this came from chronically ill people, so those people, their energy is much lower than, say, the average person. And so what takes us all 1 spoon, the amount of energy of like 1 spoon, our analogy, to get out of bed might take them 6. And so, but we all only have 12. So it's not like they get more just because it takes them more time or more energy. They still only have 12. So when we think about our students only having 12 spoons, and if it takes them 10 spoons just to get ready for school, there's not a lot of spoons left to learn.
Because you can see on here, where's the bus? Public transportation takes 4. So if they don't have a car, and this is just an analogy, these are not like actual numbers. This is just for us to practice this really quickly in this kind of controlled environment.
So like think about your day today, like in your group today. Think about when you got up this morning and the things you had to do to be at this conference today. Think about how much energy you spent and you only have 12 spoons. How would you split those spoons up so that you make sure either you have some spoons left at the end of the day, or you're just gonna spend them all, and how you spend them.
And we're just gonna give you 2 minutes because I'm terrible at time management.
It's like those budget activities where they're like, try to live on only $200.
Showers, however.
Oh, yeah, that's not funny. I can't.
Unfortunately, you guys kind of have a long.
I cut back on driving, so I just take it.
We have an allocation.
You have, according to that, so I can't say cookies.
Do you have senior chairs so we can kind of be in a circle?
I have a, sorry, I have a comment.
So we don't want to talk to that, it's a wonderful
You outside, I'll be right out.
I would say that for me,
Yeah.
transporting,
Getting your family ready.
probably,
Or what happens when you have too many things to do that day?
how would you at least before you
I think you're right.
We have to decide what we're doing.
So what's our menu?
So that would be like.
So we definitely have to get after.
Oh, does he even give us more spoons?
Nope.
That would
Eating
be
what
like
is
3
left.
total.
Still takes
Nice.
energy for some
Nice.
students.
So that's
So we're three are gone.
You want to take some bus?
I know.
Hey,
This is reminding me of.
I was just saying showering really is in there.
I skipped showering today. I showered yesterday.
35 seconds!
And is this what we would call work? So we had to do that.
We're up to 8 already, so
We're up to
we
eight.
need bed, phone, and work, there's 8, so we have 2 left.
So, a lot of people like shower.
I think shower.
Not me.
Shower, you can get.
I work
Can somebody go through that? So we have bed, 1, 2, so there's 3. Work, we're working.
That's 8.
And then the last one is shower.
Once you need that, let's have dinner as well.
Okay, yeah, and there's 2 more.
All right, 3, 2, 1, come on back. We do not have that time. All right.
I thought 45 or whatever.
I thought it was 3:30.
We started at 2:45. We started at 2:45.
It's done at 3:45, we're meeting now.
Yeah, 3:45. We have until
3:45?
I look it up on my TV.
Way cool. All right.
All right, guys, we're gonna bring us all back together.
But I think there are, some of those things give me.
Well, we're reminded that we are a person who takes a lot of spoons to get through the day. Because some of us,
I think the point, I get the point, but I also think that there's,
Safety wants us to pay attention.
I really don't want to do like the kindergarten and like come on back, but I do have the power. Okay. How about group in the back? Sounded like there was a little bit of dissent about like whether or not we have coffee or go to work.
Is that a debate? Have a debate?
Oh, well, no, that worked. Okay, so you just want me to say what we did?
Yeah, sure.
So we got bed for 1, drive for 4, shower for 2, eat for 2, and play for 3. We used all 12.
Ooh, okay.
We did not go to work.
So what about laundry?
We played instead.
Oh.
Just turn your clothes inside out. Wear them
How many
in.
meals did you make?
How many, honey?
How many meals was that?
Yeah, we only
It just
ate
says,
one.
we didn't eat.
We were too busy.
No, we ate.
Just one, so.
Okay, so maybe fast food, you
So
know,
we
no,
ate,
no
what we
spoons for
ate
two
one,
for cooking.
we ate one.
And it's leftovers.
We're just talking about today, so we didn't go to work.
All right.
Alright.
So is that sustainable for every day?
No. How am I gonna do that every day?
Right, and what are the things that you had to sacrifice in order for you to do the things today?
I couldn't go on my coffee date. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to work. I know, I couldn't watch TV or use the phone. Oh wait, we used the phone too.
When you go to work, you
Yeah,
couldn't afford to
no,
use
there's
the
no
phone
way I
or
could use 12
TV.
spoons a day.
All right.
So where did the 12 spoons come from? Who
I
decided?
arbitrarily decided that this
Okay.
activity is going to have 12 spoons.
Everyone has a different amount of spoons. You decide how many spoons you have, and you get to decide how many they cost, because what might cost someone 4 might only cost you 2.
Oh, I thought we all had 12 spoons, we just had different costs for
Oh,
things.
for this activity, yes, but
Yes.
in real life, as you take this skill with you,
And one of the things that I do, I use this a lot with my friends. Do you have spoons for me to vent? I had a rough day. Did you also have a rough day? It's very shorthand for that. Do you have spoons to hold space for my conversation? Because my conversation is gonna be heavy, and I don't want you borrowing extra spoons from tomorrow. Because you can do that, but then you have even less tomorrow to start with. So I use this with my friends all of the time. Hannah, do you have spoons for this? I have got to talk to someone about it. You're the first person I thought of. And Hannah can say, yeah, go ahead. I have space for this. Hannah can also say, I have no spoons. So the other side of this is, okay, I need someone else, because I'm not taking away from her spoons for tomorrow.
You can also say, I only have one spoon.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not really numbers. It's, do you have the feeling to be able to have a conversation that might be draining?
But I think it's also helpful, you could say, I don't have a lot of spoons. It's kind of like,
Yes.
you know what I mean, like.
So maybe I wouldn't go into everything.
So the point is, if Hannah was nice, she'd say, sure, go ahead and vent. If she was
Even if she didn't have any
kind-
spoons.
If she was kind, she would say, today would not be a good day for
Maybe tomorrow.
that. Right.
Let's plan on this weekend, or, you know, having a little bit more of an intentional space to do that. You had a question?
This may not be, maybe off target, but, there are things there that I get spoons from.
Sure, totally.
You know,
Again, this is,
like when I'm stressed, I cook, you know, so,
but cleaning may take a lot of spoons.
not in my apartment.
no, but that's good to recognize that
Yeah.
you can also have things that can help you gain back spoons. So if you get to the point in your day where you're at a deficit, how can you fix that without just going to bed and being like, okay, let's just hope for tomorrow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No spoons today, but maybe later.
All right, this group.
So we totally did it wrong. We talked about all the spoons that we would prioritize and all the spoons that we would utilize.
What makes that wrong?
Rather, well, that in that we didn't specify how we would spend each 12, like, as a group and come up with like a template.
That was kind for the group.
Okay.
Great job.
We did this correctly, and we just decided.
You all did it Again,
Prioritize
shall.
showers, I think, today.
Boundaries.
No, we have none. We discovered that we all like to shower.
Fantastic. So showering's priority here. So if showering takes,
Two in this
spoons.
case.
okay. So what happens if you've already used all of your spoons? You've had a really rough day. Does that like give you spoons to shower?
Well, I think when
If
she
that's
gave
a
us
priority?
permission to get spoons, yeah, we decided that it would, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There definitely at least 2 people.
Although I don't fit
That would give us spoons, right?
I don't
I
get
mean,
satisfaction.
Like, I did start that conversation because for me, I have to shower in the morning or else I feel like a useless pile of poop. I'm
Okay.
just not, I'm not a useful person if I can't, even if it's a cold shower, like.
So for you, it sounds like it puts some spoons into your tank, because if we don't, you're gonna be at a lower
I mean,
spoon
I
deficit
guess,
potentially.
I don't think of it, but
You
it
don't feel
takes
good.
time out of my day, cause I have 2 young kids, so it's not that it puts spoons in my tank, it does take spoons out, because it's an extra effort, especially.
Get up earlier and.
Yeah, but I don't have, I don't have.
But you prioritize that spoon too.
I
because it
do,
does
I
help you
do.
in other ways.
I guess I would say it, presses my reset button, so it doesn't give me any more.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, this analogy, which is not literal, this analogy came from, I have to choose between breakfast or taking a shower because I do not have enough energy in the morning to do both. I can choose one. And that's where this analogy came from.
Or what I'm eating for breakfast. Is it gonna be a granola bar, or am I gonna have time to make it?
Exactly. What did you all come up with?
So we got to 10 fairly efficiently, and then the last two we're not sure. So bed, shower, so there's 3. We considered this as work. We're paying attention. So there's 8, and then they'll help me out, guys.
Eat, I think. And I was a dissenting vote on shower because I didn't feel like I needed one this morning, so that gave me an extra 2, and I think when I get home I'll read.
So
There you go. That's, like, this is how you can do this.
Yeah.
So can showering be that it costs a spoon to get in the shower, but you get 2 spoons after you leave the shower?
Yes,
It
it
works
can
for
be
you.
whatever we
Yeah,
want it
It's
to
not
be.
made for you.
Again,
what
this
it-
is
that's
not literal.
Not
There are
necessarily to me,
rules,
but
but
that's
there
what
are
I'm
no
hearing from
rules.
this group over here.
We're so bound by this, just FYI.
I was
And we
not
have to
expecting
ask
that.
permission for
No, we're
everything.
so bound.
What can I do?
Well, you all are teachers. You want to make sure you do it right.
Right.
Gonna
When
blame
Shannon-
Shannon for not.
sending you emails in the middle of the night, is it okay?
Is it
I
okay?
used 12.
I'm pretty sure this activity added 6 back, so.
I really need
That
to
is totally fine.
13 spoons.
You should go to yard sales, you could get like a couple dozen spoons for $1.
So just remember, like, spoons is shorthand for, do you have the space to do a thing?
It's like what one of my friends calls bandwidth.
Yeah, it's the exact same idea. So just really quickly, and if you have a handout, it's in there, so you can read that, or it's up here. Just give you a second to check that out. I'm not going to talk about all of these. This is from Brene Brown's Daring to Lead Braving Inventory.
The link is in there, not the actual
Yep, sorry.
description.
Link is
It's
in
called
there.
Vault of the Braving Inventory under Strategies of Kindness Towards Self.
So this, I'm specifically going to talk about Vault. So when I first read this, I did not understand what she meant. You're saying, it says, you don't share information or experiences that are not yours to share. I need to know that my confidences are kept and that you're not sharing with me any information about other people that should be confidential. So Hannah, have I got a story to tell you about Sierra? Right. But then I leave. What does she know about me?
That you gossip.
That I gossip.
You're an open vault.
That means her secrets are not safe with me because Sierra. Guess what Hannah told me? I'm not secure. So even if it's a small thing, you leave that interaction going, I don't trust you anymore. So the vault idea, the reason why I wanted to like intentionally say this is because yes, everybody has to vent. Yes, we all have to let emotions out, have that release valve. Absolutely. However, you have to be intentional with that as well. Because if you do that over and over and over again to the same person, they're not going to think that you keep their confidences because you don't keep others' confidences. So, if you need to vent, fine. You do not need to tell others secrets. So, also, we have like tons of prizes, so we need to like share some of this. So, who wants to play now?
Ooh!
Okay, you got it. Sorry.
So if you're looking at the handout as well, one of the things that I included as well in Kindness Towards Self, something that's really hard for me is I'm a helper, so I find my energy. Sometimes I get my spoons from helping others. but that's not always super kind to myself because I will overextend myself. And so I saw this tweet recently, and I thought it was really great because it can help me, it can get my dopamine rush by finishing something. So it's a saying no to things card, and for everything that I say no to, if I get 10 things that I say no to, I can go get myself an ice cream. Someone else has to get me an ice cream, actually. Your friends have to buy you an ice cream. And so for all of us, I think all of us have been in those situations where it's really hard for us to say no, even when we know that by agreeing to that committee or agreeing to this extra initiative or agreeing to this extra work, that it's gonna take extra spoons out of your day, and you're gonna have to renegotiate those spoons around. So sometimes having something else to motivate you to say no. And the thing that I think has helped me the most when I think about boundaries and being kind towards myself is I think of my future self as a different person. So it's very easy for me to think about future Hannah. Like at midnight last night, I was like, oh God, the clothes are in the washer. I can just do them in the morning. Future Hannah can take care of it. No, future Hannah sucks in the morning. We gotta take care of her. So it was thinking about how she's gonna feel in the morning. And if by making future Hannah a separate person, it's much easier for me to be kind to that person and say no to things that would be unkind to me. All right. So I think now we're heading into kindness towards others. And Jen, you also have a story about that as well, I believe.
I do.
So she'll share a really great story about what kind boundaries towards others can look like and how we can react to them. She's like customizing the pages over there.
So this is not the story side, but I'll get to that one. So I will end this phone call if you continue to shout at me. Shout! It's a boundary. Please don't shout at me.
I was totally shouting you.
I can stay for half an hour. I can assist with this for half an hour. I need time to think about it. Let me come back to you. It can also sound like, not at this time. I don't think so. No, thank you. And?
No. No is a full sentence.
No is a complete sentence.
I heard somebody, oh,
That's okay. Go ahead.
I heard somebody say something that was really useful when it was in a leadership workshop, but if somebody comes to speak to you, if you're their boss and you're not prepared to be 100% present, that it's much kinder to to schedule a time for it so that you can be present. And I think sometimes as bosses and maybe even people who work for people, you don't want to put somebody off, but it is the kinder thing to do.
Yes.
For you and for them to be able to be fully present.
We're going to put your name on this presentation too.
Thank you so much, Andy.
You're a great audience member.
Again, not the plan.
Does that mean I talked to
What
you?
is your
No, it means you had
Lisa. Okay.
the perfect statement.
So I did to Lisa, accidentally, what this story is about. I walked up to Lisa and she did not know I was behind her. I did not touch you, which is part of the story, but I did startle you. And my immediate response was, I am so sorry, I did not mean to do that, I thought you saw me. That is what I said to you.
Yes.
That is the direct result of this. So, when I was first an adult education teacher, I did this. I walked up behind a student, we had a pretty great relationship. There was a conference room and then like the work area. So I came from the conference room to the work area, they were facing away from me. And I tapped them on the shoulder and said, hey, this happened.
Yeah.
Immediate, eyes wide, hands up. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I did something wrong. And he went, oh no, it's fine. And so I put my hands up, I walked around his periphery, so I was fully in his eye line, and I sat down next to him and I said, I did something. I don't know exactly what it was, but if you feel comfortable telling me the thing I did wrong, so I don't do it to you again. And again, he went, no, it's fine, it's fine. And I just went, that's okay. I just want to make sure I don't stress you out again. And he told me that some things had happened that he couldn't control when people were coming up behind him. So please not do that again. I went, you got it. So every time that student, and pretty much everyone ever, I try to make sure I'm like, hi friend. You know, I try to make sure I'm not immediately coming up behind someone, which is why I went, I'm so sorry, I thought you saw me. Because I do apologize for that.
You
So,
just startled me, I wasn't scared. You were just walking stealth. I didn't even hear her beside me. Yeah.
but being able to recognize, like, obviously I had done something. I tapped him on the shoulder and he went, hi. That is not a cool reaction to have. And I know I did something. So, hey, Anna, I'm so sorry. Obviously, I caused you some stress. If you could tell me what the stress is, not what caused the stress. I'm not talking about whatever that was, because that was absolutely a trauma response. But I did something, I don't want to do it again. Could you please let me know? And immediately the backing off, giving space, hands up and going, I'm sorry, what I did was not cool.
When Jen told me the story, because we were talking about what stories we were going to tell to kind of demonstrate some of these pieces, and the immediate thing that I thought about was, because again we're thinking about kindness towards self, kindness towards others, and those boundaries, is that Jen really was being very kind towards that person and how she allowed them to share their boundaries. She apologized. She did not come out and say, whoa, that reaction was uncalled for. She didn't state that there was anything wrong with how that person reacted. So she first gave them, like, honored that their reaction was fine. It just wasn't what she expected. And I also appreciated that she created space for that learner to open up and share, because that learner would not have shared what it was that triggered them had she not said, I did something wrong, I don't know what it was, can you help me, like, so I know what to do better next time. Like, she opened that up and made it a more even ground for him to just say, like, this is what's wrong. It's not, there's nothing wrong with me that I have this response. And so she was being very kind to open up that boundary for him to set it for her. And actually, we're right on time too, Jen, so I think we can still do our activity.
Okay.
So, you want to keep our same groups? Or you want to mix them up?
I don't want to move.
I'm getting nods of yes, so
Let's keep
sure.
our
Okay, same groups?
So for this activity, we're gonna look at some stock photos of people just making different expressions and things like that. And in your groups, it's gonna be kind of similar to, well, there's gonna be 4 different options that you can choose that you think that this person might be, this is why this person might be looking this way or displaying this body language. And so talking amongst your groups as to all these different scenarios, and if you feel like they are accurate, or if there's other scenarios that they could potentially be feeling based on this body language that we didn't think of. So we have 4 different ones for you to go through. I just want to make sure I get everything. Yeah, here are your notes. And yeah, if you all agree on the number that you choose, or like the answer that you choose, what might be another way that someone could be feeling, way that they're feeling or exhibiting, or, sorry, let me say that again. What is another way that someone could be feeling while exhibiting the same body language?
So, the first image is, what do you think they're feeling? Just take that in for a second.
Are we putting the 4 up first, or are we making them come up with their own?
I'm gonna do this for this.
Okay.
This first one.
So you can come up with your own.
So, just in your head, just gonna give you 15 seconds. You come up with a story. You tell your group what's going on in this.
Either because they have superpowers.
Obviously, Luke is ready to go, so if you've got a couple of ideas, feel
why
free.
someone did something that they consider that's
My thought was, are you kidding me?
See, I thought it was like over
I thought it was
That's so well.
I like yours.
Yeah,
That's
how I feel.
No, not they made them do something. That they are
Watching
putting that
something.
on the next person.
Yeah, or
Those are the two things we have.
It's very similar to yours.
We had the
So these are three of the scenarios that we had thought of, but there's also letter D, come up with your own.
Look at that. Yep.
These are not right, these are all stock photos, so there's no right or wrong answer.
We actually have no idea how the
My first
person's
one was
feeling.
D, the superhero.
Yes, you
So
can
it
have the
sounds like
supervision.
group wall, I don't know. You guys are coming up with superheroes?
No, that was just him.
It could be someone like who's pretending to be an X-Men.
But we were actually split between the headache and the watching something stupid.
Yeah.
Alright. Group in the back, what are you thinking? Fair enough. Group in the front. Ooh, okay. So we've got superhero, unsure, and stress. There is no right answer. These are stock photos. But the question is, how does the story change based on the context? When you had just the image of the face, I immediately heard superhero. Then this, stress. But how does the story change once you know a little bit more information?
We don't know more information.
No, you don't. That's kind of the point. If this was a barometric headache, which I have,
Right now?
not right now,
Oh, good.
but
Really good.
what it means is I can tell when like a heavy storm is coming.
Oh, yeah.
And I get this weird, like, it feels like there's a hat on my head. And it's just this weird pressure, and I'm constantly doing this when I get those kinds of headaches. So that was my first one. I see that, and I'm like, oh, I know what that is. That is a headache caused from barometric pressure.
And how might you approach someone differently?
If I'm going, oh man, I've got such a headache, this rain is killing me. It's not raining outside, it's 80 degrees. It's coming tonight.
We're gonna look at you kind of weird.
Story's gonna change, right? Versus someone that's like, oh, I'm so stressed. Or my burgeoning superhero powers are coming in and I don't know how to handle it.
No, it's more
Both of
like,
them, we're gonna
it's
look
more
at
like,
them kind of funny. So.
I just watched the Marvel movie, and I want to pretend I'm, which
Yeah,
one was that?
context.
So, thank you, not a plant.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. You can come up with a story of someone's behavior.
You can be honest.
You can totally do that.
Which we always do every time.
But we don't know the right answer. We're not sure of the right answer. So here's the second one. What's the story? And how do they feel? Chat with your group.
Resting angry.
That was because my boss said she might be stopping in and I couldn't say like resting.
But they wanted to punch the wall.
To be fair, I was the one that was telling her.
Just had them control.
I think it's more than not being invited to a party. I think it's personal.
And I feel like over my life, no, and I feel like it's gonna be like what? Oh, actually, yes, that's
I actually wrote an article about resting bitch. It's not necessarily a reflection of what's really going on in the person at all. There are some people whose lives turned down and photo recognition stuff says that that's and it's like inherited.
What do we got?
Well, we haven't really formed consensus because we've been just kind of talking to each other. But I think the person is angry, and I think it's internalized anger. But that might just be because of the conversation I had yesterday.
I think it looks like someone who had just enough control to not punch the wall.
Okay. So active anger just enough not to punch the wall. Interesting.
Just enough.
Just enough. Okay.
Like
What about you
like
guys?
an eighth of a spoon left.
There you go. Nice use of the spoon activity, Luke.
Well, I actually think we just now had an interesting happen between Sarah. She was thinking, parent in the hospital, she was thinking that was the child who had a parent in the hospital. Maybe the parent had a drug problem or something, and so it's the child that's angry, like not again. And I was thinking that was the parent in the hospital who was angry because their child wasn't being treated the way that they thought they should. So I think that's interesting that we both saw that.
Yeah. So again, the whole point is
Context.
context.
Could it just be someone who got off the phone with customer service?
So we're just gonna go through
race.
these really quickly and move on to the next thing because we are running out of time, as my lovely timekeeper has reminded me. So just another photo, another set of scenarios. Personally, I think it's the pollen.
It might be the sun. If you look at the lighting in the photo.
And I like this one because this one was super like.
I know that's your crush.
Did you mean to say that out loud?
That's your crush.
JW.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Okay. So to kind of transition now, so to talk about negotiating kindness, so how do you like have these conversations with people? Because these conversations can be hard. And we mentioned earlier in the presentation that this can be uncomfortable. It's normal that talking about boundaries with people, or even talking about it with yourself and figuring out what your boundaries are, it can be uncomfortable. And
that's why we brought choice.
Yeah, and to know that you're not the only one that feels that way, that this is a normal thing that we're all gonna go through as we develop. So this activity is just to kind of get us opening to negotiating kindness. So this is an activity I do with my staff a lot. I have all these postcards, and in the handout I have a link to it, but you can collect your own postcards. And you're gonna come up and you're gonna look at the table and you're gonna look for a postcard that represents this question. How did this year go for you? And then you're gonna find a partner, and we're gonna say in 2 minutes, share why your postcard represents your answer to the question above.
Do you want us to pick the postcard up and take it?
Yep, pick your postcard up and take it. So come up and grab a postcard that you think represents how you felt this year went. How did this year go for you? And then find a partner and share.
And how did this year, you're looking for a postcard about how this year has gone so far. And then you're gonna talk to someone that's not at your tables.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Nope, go on.
So once you get your postcard, come and move away from the table.
He's gonna reach right below you. Yes, I know, we should've done it out in the hallway, not
Oh, once you get your postcard, to the hallway.
That would be a good idea, grab it as we come in, yeah. I don't know, I'm all over the place.
I'm sorry. There's a couple duplicates on there too, so that way you can.
Find a postcard, find a partner. If you need to
Oh,
go
I'm sorry,
for a couple minutes.
Yeah, it can be a little quieter, yeah, definitely on the hallway, but we're only on 2 minutes, we'll call you back.
Do you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is
Yeah.
How's your year going based on that postcard?
How does that postcard represent, symbolize your year?
just somebody instead of like visit people and having something to do with
I know someone still interpreting that. I feel like there should only be one right way. Yeah, the end. Let's talk.
Kind of hard.
Go ahead. Yeah, that was a nice idea though. Yeah, I think so.
does the social event of this year win for you? Yeah, exactly. You have to think about that.
I would say
Alright, like 1 minute left, and then make sure that you switch. The first person wrapping up their stories.
There was another card.
I picked this one. I feel like I had a year where I was stepping back and looking at the big picture a lot. I'm empty nest now, my kids are gone, and I'm trying to adjust to that, and book studies, doing work, cultivating resilience and indicators. So I'm thinking, am I going to do this for the rest of my career, or is it just maybe I'm do it in a way that feels really comfortable? So there's a lot of reflection.
If you're done talking to your partner, please return the posted card. Thank you.
The first time I did this, we were like, I don't want to return it though. Okay. All right, about 30 seconds left.
That is what I call adult there, because you always have
Followed by having to have.
All right, guys, wrap up your last few thoughts, and we'll come back together. Nice.
I got you, girl.
It was nice finding
Okay,
out.
so this activity was for two parts. One, I did want to share the postcard activity with you because it is a really great team building activity and like kind of icebreaker activity. It can really get people talking easily. But two, it was an kind of indirect activity and active listening. Because as we talk about negotiating boundaries and negotiating kindness and being kind to others, we really need to think about active listening. And so often, I know I do this all the time, is I am not listening to what someone's saying right in front of me. I'm not thinking about either what I'm gonna say or just like thinking about other things. Like sometimes I'm not always present. And so really being an active listener so that I can really hear what it is that person might be communicating to me. Or making sure that I'm hearing what they might need as I'm communicating my boundaries to them. So that activity was a little bit in that piece. So before I kind of get into how, like the strategies that you could use in that sense, or the strategies that I've used that have been helpful, how it all started with me is when I first moved out of my parents, and I moved into a house with two of my girlfriends in the summer. It was tough. It was 3 girls living in a 3-story house. And it was a very large house, and there was a lot to like keep up and keep clean. And we had to learn how to communicate with each other. And something that one of my best friends, and we still use that to this day, this was over almost 15 years ago that we started this statement, was we started with just like a really blanket statement that we agreed upon beforehand. And it was, I'm not mad, I just have a problem in a situation that I need your help with, and I need your help to figure it out. And so it really kind of put us away from the defensive, that it wasn't me coming at them or attacking them, or them coming at me and attacking me with something that, you know, was a difficult conversation, but instead was saying, I need your help because there's a problem and I don't know how to solve it alone. So one of the things that when we talk about strategies is like prepare that scene and appreciate that person. Like don't get them on the defensive at first, because that's going to be their initial reaction if we're coming to have these hard conversations about negotiating boundaries.
Oh my God, Hannah, why didn't you do the dishes last night?
It can make you feel like less than. Right, or that I didn't do anything, or that, right?
But that's not a kind way to approach a situation that I might be having a difficult time with.
So kind of preparing the scene by starting with just like appreciation, setting that as a really open area, that you do appreciate that person and who they are, and that you're coming to them with an issue and that you need their help. And then talking about expectations and needs, and I do this with my students. When they enroll for the first time, we have a learner agreement, And I say to them very specifically that these are our learner expectations, and this is so you can know what to expect out of us, and we can know what to expect out of you. So that it's very clear up front. And so it isn't me telling them the rules, it is just telling them this is how things go here. So if we want things to go smoothly, this is how we do it together. And so having those kind of negotiations, so by me saying to my friend, I have this situation, or by kind of setting those expectations of before we have hard conversations, we're gonna say that. And eventually it did evolve that we didn't have to say that whole sentence. We could just say, hey, I gotta talk to you about something. But it all started with us being very explicit up front.
Because kind communication is clear.
Yes, kind is clear, yes. And so expressing your concern and being really direct about expressing your concern. Don't beat around the bush because they might not get it. And then you're just gonna be upset that you had this conversation and they didn't respect your boundary, but in actuality, they just didn't understand what you were telling them. So expressing your concern in a very direct way. I think we all say this, like, you don't wanna go to the table by just saying, like, we're not gonna do that, that's not gonna work for me. We wanna try to come with some alternative or compromise. And I like to say all the time, like, teamwork makes the dream work, and it really does. Like, I can't just come to somebody and be like, this is how it's gonna be, and not honor how it's gonna be for them. That's how it is in my office. But that's something that we have to be open to, and I think before you even go into those conversations with those folks, think about where your compromises and your alternatives can be, and think about where you're not willing to be flexible and where you need to remain firm.
And being clear about both of those.
So active listening, we already kind of talked about. You really want to active listen to really hear what it is that they're saying to us.
Out of curiosity, who interrupted the partner when they were talking about the Post-its? Was there any interruption at all?
I probably did. Sorry, I probably did.
That is true. I absolutely did.
I did interrupt when you said something about time the first time, because I thought that was the end of all the time and our first person was still talking, and there were 3 in my group, so I wanted my chance, and as it worked out, I got enough of a chance.
No, that's good. But I actually listened to a lot of you, and it was quite insightful. Like at first, you guys, I could hear people talking like back and forth, but then one person would quiet down, and you would just be able to hear that other person kind of speak. So that was, I did get to see that in a number of groups that I kind of observed.
And if you do happen to have, if you struggle with communicating with someone who might talk over you, hi. One of the activities that actually worked really well for me, I learned this in a conflict resolution class, was you have 5 minutes to talk. So Hannah would get 5 minutes to talk. I would not interrupt. Hannah also has a card that says, shush, just shush on it. And if I interrupt her in those 5 minutes, she holds it up and then it's a visual. I am talking. Sorry. And then continue on with the 5 minutes. So it works really well because it's a non-confrontational way of like, dude, you gonna keep interrupting me? Instead of, that's a little aggressive. If you practice that, holding up an index card that just says, shh. It's a visual, non-confrontational way of like, oh hey.
Might I suggest it's a previous conversation you have with the other person instead
Oh, yeah.
of just doing it in the middle of the conversation?
Yeah,
You do
hello,
have to
shush,
set the
but-
expectation prior to that activity.
Shush.
Yes.
Being extra confrontational and
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, not a plant. Thank you very much for
I think we
that.
are all gonna make shush
But that's
cards.
true. The activity that you did, you were giving the shush, you were explaining what it was.
Yes, and I did forget to say that.
So-
it was explicitly described before that activity happened.
So you can set your ground rules, so to speak.
I almost want to say too, from the side of the person that unintentionally talks over, like self-restraint. I've recently been told that I'm very good at being the first to say something. I don't do it on purpose, but I'm practicing keeping my mouth shut. Or I try to fix everything. I'm practicing not coming up with a solution, but just listening. And so I don't know if it's because I've just had trouble hearing my whole life, so listening hasn't come natural. But so that's just new practice and
No, I've got excellent hearing and I'm exactly like that.
Okay, right.
It's true. Self-awareness.
Yeah. And that's part of being kind to yourself is figuring out your self-awareness so you can figure
Right.
out, like we talked about, those like steps towards change, and first step is admitting that there's a problem. Okay, so effects of non-negotiation, obviously if you can't find a compromise, you need to have some kind of effect of that non-negotiation, and they need to know what that is. Like, well, if I don't know what it is, but like if I can't get my negotiation met, there needs to be something like, well, if we can't find even ground here, then this is what's gonna happen. So they need to be able to understand, and you need to know what that is up front as well before you go into that conversation, so that way you know where you can be flexible and where you cannot be flexible.
No, not at this time, or no, thank you.
So these are just some additional resources that we wanted to share. And just the kind of like last thing that I really wanted to share, as we talked about, like this is uncomfortable. This is something that you're gonna have to practice, and I promise that the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. Personal experience, like the more that you practice your boundaries with yourself and with others, the easier it is to follow through with them. And I think about that with the lobster story. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the lobster analogy about how lobsters grow, but the stimulus for getting a lobster to grow is feeling uncomfortable in their shell. So the video that I put in here in the handout is of this rabbi talking. He says if a lobster went to a doctor, they would never grow. They would never move out of that shell because they'd give them a pill, or they'd say stop doing that thing, so you're not stressed anymore, you're not feeling uncomfortable. But by doing that, by being uncomfortable, by molting out of their shell, by growing a stronger shell, a bigger shell, they are now a bigger, better, stronger lobster. And that's how we should think about things when we're feeling uncomfortable. So if we're feeling uncomfortable, if we're feeling stressed, if we're feeling those feelings of overwhelm, sometimes that means that you're in an opportunity of growth and you are growing. And we remind that of our students. So you can think about that as you're being pushed to new limits and you think that maybe your boundaries are being pushed, but sometimes it is a good thing and we are growing into that next step, and we can remind that of our students as well, that if they're uncomfortable and they feel like this isn't easy, good, you're growing. You're gonna become a bigger, better version of yourself soon.
2 last slides. Well, video games taught me better than school or parents ever could. Obviously, this is not mine. I found it online. If you're facing new challenges or obstacles, then you are going the right way. I'm not going to read all of these because I would like to read the last slide, so I'm just going to pick a couple. Even if you don't get money for something, you always get experience. Explore. Don't feel like you have to plow through the main story. The best content is sometimes in side quests. This all started because of a side quest. I went to Hanna and went, "Argh!" And she went, let's channel that into something useful. Never judge someone's skills solely on their achievements. You don't know how they got them. Take full advantage of character customization.
That's a good one.
Okay, so this one does have a trigger warning of suicide ideation, and if that is a problem, I will allow anyone that needs to step out. Seeing none, okay. I don't like the phrase, a cry for help. I just don't like how it sounds. When someone says to me, I'm thinking about suicide, I have a plan, I just need a reason not to do it, the last thing I see is helplessness. I think your depression has been beating you up for years. It's called you ugly, stupid, pathetic, and a failure. For so long that you've forgotten that it's wrong. You don't see any good in yourself, and you don't have any hope. But still, here you are. You've come to me, this is a psychiatrist speaking. You've come to me, banged on my door and said, hey, staying alive right now is really hard. Just give me something to fight with. I don't care if it's a stick. Give me a stick and I can stay alive. How is that helplessness? I think that's incredible. You're like a Marine, trapped for years behind enemy lines. Your gun has been taken away. You're out of ammo. You're malnourished. And you've probably got some sort of jungle virus that's making you hallucinate giant spiders. And you're still going. Give me a stick. I'm not dying out here. A cry for help makes it sound like I'm supposed to take pity on you. You don't need my pity. This isn't pathetic. This is the will to survive. This is how humans have lived long enough to become the dominant species. With no hope, running on nothing, you're ready to cut through 100 miles of hostile jungle with nothing but a stick, if that's what it takes to get to safety. All I'm doing is handing out sticks, and I would add, all we do is hand out sticks. You're the one staying alive. So, thank you.